Ladies and gentlemen, please join us for a collection of Jamf stories as told from the memories of Sam Johnson.
Hi, I'm Sam Johnson, Chief Customer Officer with Jamf Software. It's just Jamf now. It's no software, just Jamf. So I've been working at Jamf for over 10 years now. So like some of you in the crowd, I've seen Jamf grow. I've seen Jamf flourish. I've seen Jamf kind of just muscle through those awkward teen years. I remember one technical training that didn't go so well. We just kind of taught the sales team some technical terms, and then when they were going out to customers, it was always like, you better sandbox that login hook to make sure that the binary doesn't interfere with the launch D resource forks. I remember before the JNUC, actually we did these things. It was called the Jamf Road Show, in which we'd pile like 16 people into a minivan and drive around the country. Cam Evian actually invented the JNUC and wants the JNUC to continue to be his and no one else's. Eventually, when the JNUC got larger, we handed it over to the marketing team. Cam still hasn't recovered from that. In 2015, we got rid of the Ghost. We brought one CEO in to replace the two that we had. That went really well. I mean, you've seen the lowercase j. So, yeah, we did the lowercase j really to simplify our naming sequence. I mean, it's a very difficult thing when it's all capital. People don't know whether to call it Jamf or JAMF or YAMF or FMAJ if you're looking at it in the mirror. So the lowercase j was going to fix that. It hasn't helped a bit. Yeah, so we're a year in on our Vista investment, and that has been going really awesome. So here we are, 2018 JNUC, and it's the last JNUC we're going to have, and we're going back to the road shows. No, I'm just kidding. JNUCs are always so special to us. It's a time for us to get together and connect in person and to share our progress and the things that we've done. And in our case, sometimes it's the things that we haven't done, like version 10 took a while. But we spend every single day trying to make the right decisions for you. And that's why we're here to celebrate with the Jamf Nation. Throughout my time at Jamf, I've seen a lot of changes within Jamf, and the one thing that we've kept true, I feel in the JNUC crowd every year that we get together. It's something special. It's the Jamf Nation that we represent. Please know every single person at Jamf is humbled and grateful for you as customers and users of our products. We thank you and have a great JNUC.
Welcome to the 9th annual Jamf Nation User Conference, the largest gathering of Apple IT administrators in the world. And this is the largest JNUC we've ever had, as I'm looking at the back of the room. Over 2,000 Apple experts gathered right here at the Minneapolis Hyatt Hotel. We're so appreciative that you're here. Some people say that we're crazy for doing an event of this size, always in late fall and late October in Minneapolis. And I know it's a little chilly out there, but for an audience whose wardrobe consists mostly of hoodies, I think that Minneapolis is the perfect location. Of course, there's thousands more out there who are not able to make it to Minneapolis, and they're attending the live stream right now. And we have got a tradition here at JNUC where we like to let them know that we're thinking of them by making some noise. So on the count of 3, I want to let everybody that is out there listening know that we wish that they were here with us and we're thinking of them. We can hear you in the upstairs auditorium, and we can hear you, of course, in this room as well throughout the hotel, but we want Jamf Nation to hear us literally around the world. So let's make some noise on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go! That was for all of you out there on the live stream. Thank you for that. Thank you for being here. You are Jamf Nation. You are the absolute best part of JNUC, as Sam mentioned in the video. Every year I'm inspired by watching you interact with each other, help one another, and I'm reminded that the value you provide each other in the hallway far outweighs anything that we're going to be able to do from this platform this morning. You are, in my opinion, what makes Jamf Nation the closest community in all of high tech, and others see it as well. I remember last year one blogger who was a first-time JNUC attendee after the event wrote these words: JNUC 2017 was definitely one of the tech highlights of my life. I felt empty when it was over. Just a tech conference. That's all it is, just a tech conference. I will feel a little empty at the end of the week as well, but we're together now. And one of the reasons why we're together now is because of the generosity of our sponsors. And I'd like to take a moment and recognize our Petabyte sponsors, Diamond Assets and WePro, and also our Terabyte sponsors, our roommates or our housemates, Code 42, also CDW, SHI, Insight, Microsoft, and Second Life Mac. Can we just thank all of our sponsors that made this event possible? Thank you. At Jamf, our growth has been very exciting, and it's also been a little bit overwhelming as we've watched Jamf Nation grow. JNUC 2015 was actually my very first JNUC just 3 years ago, and we celebrated a major milestone at that JNUC. We welcomed in customer number 5,000 into the Jamf Nation community. Now just 3 years later, Jamf was 13 years old at the time. Now just 3 years later, we have added more than 5,000 new customers since last JNUC, just in the last year. As a matter of fact, you saw in the video that we now, earlier this month, have welcomed in customer number 18,000 into the Jamf Nation community. And that number's already out of date because we're adding over 100 customers per week to Jamf Nation. And what's more important and more meaningful to all of you is that the online Jamf Nation membership community is now up over 70,000 members. 70,000 experts out there who are able to respond to you and help you and join a community with you and help all of us be successful with Apple. So that is unbelievable. I can't believe that, it feels like just a few years ago that we were a startup company here in Minneapolis and also in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And today you have made Jamf one of the largest and fastest growing device management companies in the world. And you heard on the video, Sam Johnson, our Chief Customer Officer, actually reflect a little bit on the early days of Jamf. And admittedly, growing at the rate that we're growing, one of the hardest parts of growing the way that we are is preserving the culture on which the company was founded, that Zach Homestead and Chip Pearson founded. But one of the ways that we've done that over the years, one of the reasons why our support organization that has hundreds of people in it, that is under Sam's responsibility, one of the reasons that they behave with such a passion for your success is because of Sam's passion for your success. And Sam has had that passion for a long time. As a matter of fact, Sam was the very first support person hired at Jamf, and he has built that support organization around the fundamentals that he learned when he joined. And he's also passionate for Apple technology, as we all are at Jamf. And we love this time of year, don't we? Because you get all of the new Apple releases, and you get to play with the new hardware and, of course, the new software. And we always look at the new software and new tech and try and figure out new ways to serve you. And just a couple of weeks ago, Sam and I were sitting down with the latest and greatest that Apple has to offer to figure out how can we use it to actually serve you better. And the idea that we had maybe, and this was Sam's idea, is that we should have these pop-up memojis right within the product that could guide you through and help you while you're using it. But I was told by Jill Putman, our CFO, that my memoji looks like a bearded baby. So our product team decided to go in another direction. And you're actually going to see that that idea has some legs in the product. In a little bit, you're going to see something that we call in-app guides. So the growth at Jamf has been amazing and exciting. It's also been a little bit confusing because, the first 10 years of our existence, all of the early Jamfs at the time heard is, Apple's not in the enterprise. You can't possibly be successful at just helping organizations succeed with Apple. And then, of course, for the last 5-6 years, all we're hearing is that all anybody's doing out there is they are implementing systems where they can manage every type of device inside of one system. Unified endpoint management is what they call it. The thing that's confusing about that is why would the one company that professes managing and focusing on a single ecosystem, why would that company be growing as Jamf and as Jamf Nation's been growing? Now, there's a lot of answers to that question, but the first and most important answer, it has to do with the ecosystem on which we focus. It has to do with Apple. We've always felt that Apple has done the best job of getting the tech out of the way and focusing on the individual. In fact, I mentioned Jamf was founded in 2002. Those who have been around the Apple community for a long time might remember a 1998 commercial on the iMac that introduced 3 simple steps for getting connected to the internet. Do you remember that? Step 1, plug it in. Step 2, get connected. And if you all remember, do you remember what step 3 was? You can say it with me if you like. There is no step 3, right? Now, for those of you younger folks in the audience who are saying, I don't get it, isn't that how you get connected? Well, let me tell you, back in the olden days, when we used to walk uphill both ways to school through a snowstorm, sometimes it was kind of complicated to get connected. But Apple, as they always do, redefined simplicity. And Apple has always been focused on the person. And again, getting the tech out of the way. Jamf, on the other hand, focuses on the people. When Apple comes out with a new product, we look at it and we say, how are 100 people going to use that within an organization? How are 1,000 people going to use it? How are tens of thousands of people going to use it? We imagine the workflows, multiple people sharing a device, or people having multiple devices. We're able to respond to unique workflows using groundbreaking Apple services like Apple School Manager and Apple Business Manager. And the spirit of that commercial, that 3-step process, is still alive and well at Jamf today, and you see it all over our marketing materials, don't you? That little blue Post-it that's on the box. As a matter of fact, you all got a package of those blue Post-its in your bag, and we encourage you to use them when you go out and roll out Macs when you go home, because that's ultimately what we want to achieve. Open the box, power on, there is no step 3. Now, this has been all over our marketing materials for the last 3 years, and I'll tell you the reason why, the story behind the Post-it. It actually started with my first day at work. It was in June of 2015, and I went into my office, and there was my Mac still in shrink wrap, my iPad still in shrink wrap, and my iPhone still in shrink wrap, and there legitimately was a handwritten Post-it on it with those 3 steps, and it actually did, for those that asked, there was a heart IT that I got, and just talk about feeling the love. But what I was more excited about was the simplicity and clearly the vision that everybody at Jamf had. And I carried around that Post-it for months until the little sticky stuff wore off the back of it. I never intended it to make into our marketing materials, but I always used it as an illustration for what our ultimate quest was. And eventually, it did make it into our marketing materials, and I'm so glad it did, because it's just a reminder of what we all are here to accomplish. Now, you actually saw that vision, an illustration of that vision, to kick off this morning's event. We had an Apple TV, out of the box, plug it in, walk away, and it automatically powers on, automatically enrolls in Jamf, is configured, downloads an app, in this case by a Jamf partner, Carousel Signage, if they're out there somewhere, and then automatically launches the app and automatically right into the video. Now, that was just one person and one device. But imagine the time saved when you have 100 Apple TVs to implement in all of your classrooms, Or you have 1,000 to implement or set up in all of your conference rooms. Or tens of thousands for all of the hotel rooms and all the hospitals out there. That quest to provide a process that is so easy that any user can do it, that's ultimately what we want to do. We want to make IT invisible, folks. We want to make IT invisible, not in a bad way like IT doesn't matter. Actually, in an Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of way. You know, where you disappear, and as a result, what do you become? More powerful than you can possibly imagine. And what do? You make Jedis. That's your users out there. Let them get things done because you're invisible in the background. We want an Obi-Wan Kenobi IT. So this morning, our quest is our theme, eliminating step 3. Now, admittedly, this is a quest that's never really over because sometimes our step 3 or our step 2 is actually 2A, B, C, D, E. No. So we want to eliminate step 3, and every day we're making progress. As a matter of fact, today we're making progress because we're making generally available to all of you Jamf Pro version 10.8. And next week we will release beta 1 of Jamf Pro version 10.9. And here to share all the latest features that are in 10.8 and 10.9, plus share a few resources with you for how you can get the most out of those features, please welcome to the stage Dave Alampi and Beth Cheetah.
All right, well, thank you, Dean, and good morning, everyone. I had the honor of demonstrating Jamf Pro 10 last year here on stage, and now with 90% of our customers on the 10 series, I'm thrilled to be back up here once again to show off some of the latest features in Jamf Pro 10.8 and 10.9 that Dean just mentioned, along with my colleague, Beth Cheetah, who joined Jamf how long ago, Beth?
About 2 months.
2 months. So I guess Dean wanted to torture Beth and put her on stage at her first JNUC. No, it's awesome. It's awesome to have you here, Beth. And I wish you, I want to welcome you to your first JNUC ever. So you're going to have a wonderful time. Before diving into some features, though, we wanted to share with you some exciting new training options that are out there because we believe it's going to help you even become more productive with all the capabilities of Jamf Pro. And Beth just went through her onboarding. Which means that she just got trained up on Jamf Pro as well as all the training options, and we thought it would make sense for her to walk through her experience as well as introduce you to those new options. So Beth, take it away.
Okay, great. So I'm very excited to be here at my first JNUC, and Dave, I'll admit 60 days ago, I did not think I would be on this stage, and I certainly didn't think I would be doing a live software demo in front of thousands of people at our most important event of the year. So, how have I prepared? I've been working along with my Jamf training to get me ready. And I started with the Jamf 100 course, which is online, and we now offer an associate certificate with that course. And that gave me a great foundation to proceed on to the Jamf 200 course, which was a few weeks ago right here in Minneapolis, a 4-day class. It was awesome. From here, with a little more experience, I can pursue the Jamf 300, and maybe someday if I'm brave enough, the Jamf 400, which I hear is kind of terrifying, but that could be out in the future for me. So today, I also get the opportunity at my first JNUC, along with Dave, to show you some new things that we have available for you as part of our training. You ready to help me out with this?
All right, you bet, Beth. Let's do it.
Okay. So we're happy to announce Jamf Online Training. This is new training that's accessible anywhere, anytime. And we've heard from all of you, and I would agree that one of the most difficult parts of training is just finding the time to get it done. So our training catalog has been designed with that in mind. You'll find the same content that you'll find in instructor-led courses, but put into bite-sized modules to fit your schedule. And you'll notice that we have different learning series that are based on both capabilities and roles. So we recognize that a help desk technician and a systems engineer probably have different training needs. So we've curated the materials we think will help you get to the training that you need. You're not bound by this. You can take all of the modules, or you can pick and choose the modules that fit you best. It's really up to you to design your own training. So Dave, let's take a look at one of the learning series called Apple School Manager. Okay, so let's say you want to enable some Apple features for your classroom, like shared iPads or managed Apple IDs. You can do that through this learning series. The first thing you'll see is a video lecture that explains the topic, and after watching the video, you can complete a simulation. The simulation is hands-on experience without the need to have a training environment. And every simulation has an objective, and if you get lost or you don't know what to do next, the simulation will take you through step by step. And I love this feature. It is a great way of getting hands-on experience, and that helps you really reinforce the learning. And I would suggest maybe an easier way versus hands-on experience, say during a live demo. So this is something you can do anytime, anywhere. Practice the tool. After that, you can go and you'll see we have a review section that has a couple questions just to make sure you understand the content, and then a summary module that just kind of pulls it all together. So right now, we have roughly 60 training modules in our catalog with more to come. And you can take these, as I mentioned, wherever and whenever it works for you. It is available for Jamf Pro subscription customers, and you can register at training.jamf.com or visit us at booth number 30 in the exhibit hall. So if you're a newbie like me, I hope you'll get out there, try the training modules. If you're already seasoned and certified, maybe use this tool to help onboard a new associate. It will save you time, and it really will give them a great foundation on what Jamf Pro can do. With that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Dave.
All right, well, thank you, Beth. We're really excited about this expanded set of training options because Jamf and App are constantly coming out with new features, so you need that training. Speaking of new features, let's get down to business. This is why we're here. We want to show you some of the latest in Jamf Pro 10.8 and 10.9. And there's a couple of them to refer back to Dean's comment about really trying to help eliminate step 3, so we're really trying to do that. And Beth, now that you are a Jamf Pro expert, I want to thank you in advance for your willingness to get in front of the Jamf Nation and demo the software for us. So let's get started here. All right, so here we are on the Jamf Pro dashboard. You've all seen this before. The dashboard is the great place to go and get a status and an update on the health of your devices. But a lot of times you need more information. And the logical place to go get that additional information oftentimes is to go through an advanced search. And of course, within an advanced search, you can select things like the criteria for the search, what columns you want to include in that search as well. Now you see something new here. There's a new tab here called the Reports tab. And with the Reports tab, you can turn your advanced searches into automatically delivered reports, which is really cool. And we're going to show that in a minute. All right, there we go. Thank you. Now, before we dive into that in more detail, you probably see this little blue dot that's right next to the Reports tab, and Dean alluded to that earlier. And it's just dying to be clicked, so why don't you click it, Beth? So what this is, it reveals a new feature we call in-app guides. And with in-app guides, you get information about that feature at the point of use, right when you're ready to use it. And in this case, it's showing a description of the feature along with a link out to the release notes. Now, we're going to see this throughout the demo because every feature we're showing you today is new. But Andrina Kelly is also going to be coming on stage in a little bit to talk about in-app guides in a broader context of what we call Engage, which is a higher level feature. So you'll see that in a few minutes. Now, one of the things before we go into the reports, sorry, Dean, Sam, we are not putting your emojis instead of the blue dot. Blue dots, we're sticking with that. That's the way it's going to be. All right, so let's take a look at the Reports tab, Beth. So here, of course, you can specify the file format for the report. You can then determine how you want to group the data, and then you can set up a schedule to automatically deliver that report. However, you'll notice there is actually a message there, a contextual message. You've seen contextual messages before telling us we can't do that until we give the search a name. So Beth, if you could take care of that right now.
Sure.
As a reminder, contextual messages were introduced in Jamf Pro 10. And the purpose behind them is very simple. It is to make sure you know what's going on and what to do next, especially for newer users. And of course, we have continued to spread this throughout the application over the course of the year. All right, so here we are back in the Reports tab, and we can now configure that email to send the report as we want. We can specify the recipients, the subject, the body, of course, as well as then defining a schedule where it can be delivered on a recurring basis as you like. And you can see a lot of flexibility here as well. So once we've done that, all right, here we go. Let's do it. So now you would just simply save this off, and the report would get delivered to those people you specified on the schedule that you defined. So whether you want to, keep your team informed of some things that are going on, or you would like to share information with another department like InfoSec, so they feel confident that all of your iOS devices are in fact encrypted because you're enforcing a passcode. Lots of different uses. Like always, you're going to find great ways to use this feature and be more productive. All right. Well, as you know, dashboards and now reports provide you with the opportunity to know what's going on, as well as to focus your attention on those areas that maybe should require your time. But it's really configuration profiles that are at the heart of management. And of course, with configuration profiles, it's really the inventory data that drives when those things will be deployed, where they'll be deployed, and so on. Now, what you can see behind me on the screen here are a few configuration profiles that are defined by you can see their scope to a building. So those configuration profiles will be deployed accordingly. Now, a lot of times you have the need to mass update inventory across a bunch of devices, which is why we are now introducing an inventory preload feature. And with inventory preload, you can now mass update inventory across a bunch of devices by simply uploading a CSV file. And this can be done either before or after the devices are enrolled. Now, once again, we can see our handy-dandy in-app guide there, and it shows, again, a description of the feature with a link out to the release notes so that you can, again, learn about that feature at the point of use. Now, there's a lot of use cases for inventory preload. We know that the Jamf Nation, you always come up with great ways to leverage all the features, but we're going to give you one simple example. And in this example, imagine that you want to redeploy a bunch of iPads from one middle school to another middle school. And you want to mass update the inventory so that those devices get the appropriate configuration profiles for that new school. Well, that's a perfect use case for inventory preload. So since we would have had inventory preload to deploy those devices initially, we can look at right online here the original CSV that we uploaded, and you can see the building, they're all specified to Jamf Lane, but we want to change that to the new building. Now, before we do that, just notice there's a bunch of other inventory attributes that you can leverage with inventory preload to, again, do whatever makes most sense for what you're trying to accomplish. All right, so going back to where we were at, we now want to make a change from the old building to the new building. We can simply go edit the CSV and upload it, and the changes will be made. Now, we already edited the CSV, so Beth is grabbing that edited CSV, uploading it right now. And once she's done doing that, we can now view the new active data, and you'll see it's changed from Jamf Lane to Jamf Creek, which means now those configuration profiles for that building will be pushed out to those devices, and they're ready to go. All right, thank you. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you can use inventory preload prior to or after the enrollment. So for example, if you had 500 brand new devices that you wanted to put into a third middle school, you could use inventory preload to start getting those set up. All right, we're going to switch gears now to another feature that you have been asking us for, which is really designed to help smooth out the process of onboarding. And this feature doesn't have a name, but it's located within the pre-stage enrollment section. Whether you're creating a brand new pre-stage enrollment or you're editing an existing one, Beth's going to edit an existing one. And when she scrolls down, you'll see, again, our in-app guide is pointing right to that beautiful new feature, which is the ability to install configuration profiles before Setup Assistant has completed. So now, thank you. As you know, on the surface, it's a simple feature, but it does solve a problem. When you think about your end users, they've got their iPad, they come to their home screen, all of a sudden they see apps appearing, disappearing, the home screen layout's changing. It can be confusing to them, or at least disruptive. And as Dean said, we're constantly trying to find ways to get rid of step 3A, 3B, 3C. This is another way to take advantage of that. So this is a great feature to, again, smooth that onboarding process for your users. All right, we're going to switch and talk about one more feature here, which we're going to switch gears to the macOS configuration profiles, specifically in the new user data protections and the privacy preferences policy control payload. I got it. Woo, man, that's a tough one. I think there is a happy hour game that we can play with that. That's tough to say. But nonetheless, we all know that those pop-ups that come up in front of users can be a bit confusing, right? They have to allow or deny access to certain resources or files and so forth, and they may not always know what to do. So that's one problem. And then the second problem is that as IT, if they select the wrong thing and they deny something that they should allow, then they're going to probably be submitting an IT ticket, and you have to deal with that. Which is why with version 10.7.1, we decided to, or we now automatically install a configuration profile that pre-approves the Jamf management framework. And we also created a utility that allows you to address other apps and services. Well, now, with version 10.9, you will now be able to create a security profile or security payload that, to allow and deny access to apps and services right within Jamf Pro to get rid of those pop-ups. And we'd like to All right, so we'd like to show that to you now. The first thing we would do is create a configuration profile. And Beth's going to scroll down to the appropriate payload here, and you can see it's the security and privacy payload. Our in-app guide is right there with us again. So if we want to click on that, we can see that it comes up, and it actually is a different in-app guide. It's not the same one where it's just a description with a link to the release notes. It's actually serving as a step-by-step walkthrough. Think of it like a wizard to make sure I get to the right spot in the software so I can get this configured properly. So in this case, you can see steps 1 and 4 in the lower right. We're going to first of all take our first step and collect the security and privacy payload. Then step 2, we'll click the configure button. Step 3 is going to direct us to the appropriate tab within the security and privacy payload here, which is the privacy tab. And finally, step 4 you see now on the screen is now pointing us to the right spot within the software to now get this set up. There's also, you can see, yeah, love it. Bring it on. There's a nice description here of this feature, as well as a link not just to a release note, but to a deep dive knowledge-based article, which includes both information about the privacy, preferences, policy control, said at that time, and the new user data protections. And then you can see in the bottom with in-app guides as well, we ask for your feedback because we constantly want to get your feedback so we can improve what we're providing to you. Now, we're not going to try to train you on this payload. It's a complex payload. I think many of you that have been working with it know that. But what I can say is that the team has done a really awesome job of providing the flexibility and the power that you need in order to, again, allow and deny access to the other apps and services. So with that, that is a quick flyover of some of the key features in 10.8 and 10.9. Beth, I think we're done here. Thanks again for your help in driving Jamf Pro, and we're going to pass it over to Dean Hager. All right.
High five.
Thank you, Dave and Beth. We've come a long way since the introduction of Jamf Pro version 10. As a matter of fact, since its initial release, we have implemented over 120 feature requests that you have asked for through Jamf Nation. And more of you are experiencing those feature requests in the cloud. I mentioned the thousands of organizations that have joined Jamf since the introduction of Jamf Pro version 10, which was last year at JNUC. Of those thousands of organizations, new organizations, over 80% of them in the last year have implemented Jamf Pro in the cloud. And for those of you who are running on premises in the last year since the introduction of Jamf Pro version 10, over 400 organizations have moved from on-premises into the cloud. And that isn't to say that you can't run on premises, of course you can. But more and more of our customers are deciding to take the benefits of just letting us manage that system for them. Balancing user productivity and user experience with security and privacy and IT efficiency is always a challenge, and there's nobody that we'd rather be partnered with than Apple to try and wrestle with those challenges. And as a matter of fact, this afternoon at 2:45, Jeremy Butcher from Apple is going to be leading a session just on that topic. It's being user-focused while meeting the demands of IT. I would highly encourage you to participate in that. It's at 2:45. Now, I mentioned one of the reasons for Jamf's growth over the years has been Apple, its focus on simplicity and ultimately success within the enterprise. But we have had some other help along the way. We've had some friends who have done incredibly amazing things for us. And one of those friends actually came to JNUC for the first time 3 years ago and shared a presentation that in some ways was industry rocking. Fletcher Previn from IBM came to JNUC and told the tale of IBM's Mac Choice program, an unbelievably rapid implementation, a view of cost that was perhaps different than what we had ever thought of on the Mac side, and he showed a provisioning process that's used at IBM that many, many of you coveted. The IBM team, led by Fletcher, was so bold and courageous in how they approached that implementation and the way they communicated the results that, frankly, many of us at Jamf had it as even money on whether Fletcher would be promoted or fired. And I'm very, very happy that in IBM's wisdom, they opted for the former rather than the latter. And his new duties kept him away from us last year, but this year he is back to share the latest and greatest in the IBM massive Mac implementation. Please welcome to the stage CIO of IBM, Fletcher Previn.
All right, good morning. Oh, am I on? Great, good morning, everybody. Well, let me just get this out of the way. I'm as surprised as you are that I'm the CIO of IBM. I just like computers. None of this was supposed to happen. All right. So for those of you who I haven't met, just a real brief history of me. I did get kind of an early start in IT. That's me many years ago with the first, actually a cake in the shape of the first computer I ever received, which was a Mac, even though the cake does not look like that. And then, I think my family really wanted me to go into entertainment. That's kind of more the family business. And I spent a lot of time growing up around movie sets. And I did work as an intern at the David Letterman show, and then as a writing intern at the Conan O'Brien show in college. But I knew what I always wanted to do. And after I graduated from school, I moved out to the West Coast and eventually ended up at Walmart.com. Yes, Walmart, there you go. Thank you. This looks like I worked in a store, which would have been fine, but I was working at the .com division, and I came in there as a systems administrator, got my MCSE, later went down kind of a Cisco path, became an engineering manager. I then eventually moved over to IBM, and have had the privilege of serving IBM as Chief Information Officer for the last year and a half or so. I think it's now been long enough that it would be hard to claim that that was some kind of paperwork mix-up or something. Like, it happened, it's on my LinkedIn profile, it's permanent. By the way, as I was at IBM, when I got promoted to the role of vice president, I called my dad and told him, and he was really proud. He was like, wow, I just cannot believe that. My son is the vice president of IBM. And I said to him, well, Dad, I'm not the vice president, I'm like a vice president. And he goes, well, how many vice presidents are there? And I said, honestly, I don't know. I think there's like 1,000. He goes, oh, I see. And well, this time when I was put in the CIO role, I forwarded the news announcement to my mom, and I called her up and I said, Mom, I sent you a news clipping. Did you see it? And she says, yes, I did. And I said, well, what do you think? Did you read it? And she says, yep. And I said, well, what do you think? She goes, it would just be so great if you could lose 30 pounds. And of course, my mom is completely right. So, a little bit about IBM, all joking aside, the reason I'm at IBM is if you love technology, there is no other company with the history of innovation that IBM has. For the last 107 years, IBM's been in the business of helping companies succeed with technology. And whether it is the invention of the mainframe, the first hard drive, the barcode, I had to just pick a few. The 2,000 IBMers that were involved in helping NASA put a man on the moon, the invention of the personal computer. More recently, last year, IBM unveiled the first 50 quantum bit computer, or rather qubit quantum computer. But the point is, this is a company very focused on innovation, and I feel very privileged to be able to work there. It is a fairly large organization. We're about 365,000 full-time regular employees. At any given time, somewhere in the neighborhood of 35,000 contractors. So from an IT perspective, there is only one CIO, one IT department. We're supporting a population of about 400,000 people doing business in 170 countries. May surprise you to learn that a little over 50% of IBMers have less than 5 years of service with the company. So that makes things like culture and clarity of purpose especially important for us, and the experience. And then a fair number of people working remotely or in a non-traditional office as part of IBM's outsourcing business, or out on the road selling things or otherwise, but additional set of IT challenges with that size of a remote workforce. The organization that I'm now responsible for in IBM, we're about 12,000 and change people. I'm approximately 60-40 split between my own retained organization, and then just as IBM is in the outsourcing business for clients, I too hire IBM with GBS, the services businesses, GBS being my preferred provider of application development type work, GTS being my preferred provider of infrastructure type work. And then worldwide, IBM has over 1,000 offices, and so it is a large worldwide footprint. The team, we manage about 7,000 printers. The help desk that we run internally to support IBM internal population gets just under 2 million tickets per year. We onboard about 35,000 new hires every year, and as of yesterday, just over 537,000 laptops under management. Most people at IBM are on a 3 or 4 year refresh cadence for hardware. So on our population basis, that means that we're provisioning about 150,000 laptops per year. If you're curious on the split of those, we're about 66% Windows, 25% Mac, and growing, and just under 10% Linux. But it's a heterogeneous environment, and we need to be able to provide a best-in-class experience for all those platforms. So why do we exist? What is our purpose inside the company? We're here to create a productive environment for IBMers. Within that is improving our ability to attract and retain top talent, enabling the IT conditions necessary to support what we would call the cognitive enterprise, using IBM's own technologies, Watson, cloud, blockchain, and so on. And then protecting IBM's information and data as well as our clients. Now, within that, we spend a lot of time thinking about IT as a driver of culture change. You heard Dean talk about the importance of culture, especially in a large organization, and creating an environment where talented people want to work. And that's sort of the covenant that we're trying to create is we will provide once-in-a-lifetime opportunities to work on meaningful problems at scale. You will agree to keep your skills current and bring that passion to work every day. And if we surround ourselves with those kinds of teammates, we'll be successful in whatever problems we're trying to solve, right? I'm looking for patriots, not mercenaries. And I often get asked, what are you sort of looking for in your team? And ultimately, I'm looking to hire people who are kind, passionate about their craft, and believe in our purpose. And so I asked our very talented design team to come up with a visual that tries to capture that ethos and the culture that we're trying to create at IBM. And they came up with something that I really love, and so I just wanted to share it with you. This is the CIO Nutritional Facts poster. Those are all the ingredients that you need to be successful in our organization. We lead with our agile practices. It's an engineering culture. Bring that passion and engagement and have empathy. And then down at the bottom, you see our mission statement. We create a productive environment for our employees. We do that by leading with design to drive simplicity and ease of use. We engineer the systems that run the business and innovate to transform the business processes that underlie those systems. Thomas Watson Jr. said over 60 years ago that good design is good business. In 2018, that's no longer a profound thought. That's table stakes. And people coming to work 10, 5, even 3 years ago have a very different set of expectations. And there is a reducing amount of tolerance for things not being good simply because they're in an enterprise. And when did it become okay to have this Jetsons-like experience at home and Flintstones-like experience at work? I think this audience, probably more than anybody, gets the answer is it's not. And so we spend a great deal of time making sure that our philosophy is that the state of IT and the quality of the service we're provisioning is a daily reflection of what the company thinks and feels about its people. And that if we really believe that, then the environment that we're creating from an IT perspective is not trivial. It's actually core to a strategy of creating a high-performing, highly engaged workforce. And there is this other element to that, that the product is the experience and the experience is the product. You can no longer mask a difficult-to-use product with a good provisioning engine or vice versa. People experience these things as one continuum. And so we have to make sure that it's an end-to-end process, whereas Dean said there is no step 3. And so that really led us to pursue the Mac at IBM program several years ago and develop a different approach to how we think about provisioning services and devices that basically says give people the right equipment, manage it in a modern way, and enable self-service and self-sufficiency in the environment. The other element of this is that when we take the time to do the engineering work properly and put the right level of focus on the user experience and design, that people will pull things from us. We don't have to push it on them. And we've had a number of examples of successes of that within IBM, Mac at IBM being one of the larger ones. But the idea is, if we do that properly, I don't need to spend all this time and energy on adoption, enablement, organizational change management, evangelism, videos, posters, and so on. And so all the things that are there to help people use software that's difficult to use melts away, and people will pull the solutions that are helping them be more productive. So within that, this is what our version of the self-service app looks like. We've rebranded it the Mac at IBM App Store, but this is the one and only place where people inside of IBM go to get software for the Mac. One of the other additions as a kind of status update on our program versus 3 years ago was we made it possible for people to buy out their machines after the useful life of it. And it's very interesting. When you tell people 3 years or 4 years from now, we'll give you the option to buy this machine out for whatever its residual value is and keep it, fewer cracked screens, fewer warranty claims, fewer dropped machines. People take much better care of it. Because they perceive it less to be the company's machine and potentially their future machine or someone that they care about's future machine. So 3 years ago, I stood up here and I shared with you, as Dean mentioned, that the business case for the Mac at IBM program was very much predicated on a belief that there would just be fewer problems in the environment if we could solve this provisioning into an automated way, delivered over the cloud, where there is no step 3, that we would see fewer problems coming into the environment, and that we would have a significantly reduced support burden. And I'm very pleased to say that fast forward 3 years, that's very much still the case. So here is a snapshot of the number of Macs deployed at the midpoint of each month. So in September, we were at 134,000. And if I map that to the number of support tickets opened as a percentage of that population, what this chart is really saying is, even though we're deploying more Macs every month, we're not requiring a commensurate increase in the number of support staff. And if you just want to simplify this even further, year-over-year compares, we continue to see efficiencies in end-to-end solving of problems, and more recently, in particular, with the addition of some of the AI and Watson technologies on our help desk to allow people to describe problems they're having in natural language and then actually take action and address some of those things around password reset and otherwise. Looked at another way, we have now deployed 277,000 Mac and iOS devices inside of IBM. Those are supported by a total team of 78 people, to include the engineering and support staff. We continue to see very high first call resolution for both the Mac and the Windows 10 help desks. We track all the things you would expect a help desk to track, but first call resolution tends to be a really good predictor of overall happiness with the service. If we can't solve a problem on the phone and we have to send someone to your desk, that is a more expensive operation for us from an IT perspective. That happens about 6% of the time for the Mac population, about 14% of the time for the Windows 10 population. But in both environments, we've done a lot of work to really raise the bar on net promoter scores and people's satisfaction with the quality. And you can see here, the net promoter scores for the Mac program, as well as the the Windows 10 program. So I want to share a video as a kind of update, right? We've been working on the provisioning engine for the last 3 years, and it's become more feature-rich and more capable to handle more of the end-to-end steps here. So what you see here is a person being prompted for their IBM credentials, accepting the privacy agreement. We don't bind the machine to Active Directory. We just create a local user account. That person chose not to use the dark mode, which I would have chosen, but that's okay. And so here you see the device registration tool that is registering this device in our asset management backend, selecting the geography, whether it's a primary or a secondary workstation, IBM owned or personally owned, letting us know if any kinds of sensitive data is going to be on this workstation, completing the enrollment. Registration is now complete. Restarts. Change the password to comply with the complex password policy. Enable the disk encryption. And now we have the ability to install bundles of applications. These bundles can be customized. You can select or deselect things in and out of it. We've created these 3 bundles, but the provisioning engine allows us to have that flexibility to make those whatever we want. And you'll now see it's going through and installing all these bundles of applications. In this case, it's installing things like productivity software, email client. You see here getting started. And now it's done, and it launches the self-service app, which in our case is called the Mac at IBM App Store. So that really kind of informed for us a very different user experience that we want the provisioning to feel like for employees at IBM. And so we've then turned our attention to making a similar kind of experience for our PC population. As I said, we have a mixed environment, and our goal is to at least aspire to have the best IT experience for our people possible. And we partnered with using some Microsoft and IBM technology, Intune and IBM BigFix, to get a similar kind of experience where we're not imaging PCs anymore, where you can see there, once you identify yourself as having an IBM.com email address, the IBM BigFix payload gets delivered, and it starts to progress through a very similar set of activities that you would typically have solved in the context of a corporate image. So by the way, there is a session later this afternoon. Our very talented Mac at IBM team is here, and they are going to be conducting a session in deeper detail on exactly how we do this. For both platforms, Mac and PC, will be hosting a session at IBM's technology conference in February in San Francisco called Think. I encourage you to attend there, and if you do, you'll have an opportunity to get a deeper dive into all of that. But before I go, one thing I wanted to mention is I love coming to this event because it's such an engaged community. The Jamf Nation is just a great community to be a part of. And one of the things that we've heard over the years is, well, you're IBM, and you have resources that not everybody has. You have access to companies that not everybody has. And we wish we could get the benefit of some of the work that you're doing. And I think there's some merit to that, and we wanted to see what we could do in that space. And so I'm very pleased to be able to share with you that effective immediately, we are open sourcing the Mac at IBM program. It's available now at the GitHub repo address you see there. And we look forward to being able to mutually benefit from that. IBM's got a long-standing commitment to open source. And so that is the announcements that I was looking forward to sharing with all of you today. So thank you very much. Thank you.
So Fletcher had told me that story a couple years ago about his dad asking him how many VPs there were at IBM. And true story, when you maybe remember it, the day you got promoted to CIO, I texted you, how many CIOs are there at IBM? So he's had a great sense of humor about it. And thank you so much, not only to you, Fletcher, but there's lots of IBMers in the room for showing a commitment to the open source community, to the Jamf Nation community by open sourcing something that so many have coveted for so long. So thank you for that. IBM also benefits the community in other ways because there's such a large implementation. They lean on us pretty hard for new features as well within Jamf Pro. And something that Beth and Dave did not cover earlier is a feature that Fletcher and team have been asking for a while, and that is the ability to install an application package on the Mac, pre-setup assistant right at the time of enrollment. And I'm very happy to say that that is in 10.9, which we'll go into beta next week. So on the topic of embracing open source, you may have heard that recently Jamf acquired a company that has contributed a fair amount of open source to the community. 1 month ago, Jamf announced the acquisition of Orchard and Grove, maker of Nomad. Nomad is a suite of tools designed to improve the authentication and account management process. Of course, the acquisition created a lot of questions amongst you, like will Nomad remain open source? What is the difference between Nomad and this new product called Jamf Connect? Will Jamf support Nomad? And if we do support Nomad, will the founder of Orchard and Grove, Joel Rennick, finally be able to sleep at night? And if he is well rested, how will Jamf possibly be able to control him? To answer all of those perplexing questions, I'm going to introduce two people. First of all, the founder of Orchard and Grove, Joel Rennick, and the head of customer success for Jamf, Rachel Jose.
I told Dean the applause would go longer. Thank you, thank you. Very excited to be here. I'm very excited to get some sleep, as Dean mentioned. It's one of the great things about this acquisition is that having hundreds of support people to be able to answer tickets and to help you, both with the open source and with the commercial parts, has been really exciting. So with that, Rachel's going to talk a little bit about some of those pieces.
Yeah, that's what Joel thinks. We've been really nice to him so far because he's new, but he now has over 800 Jamfs that are going to be picking his brain day and night, so I don't know if he'll be getting quite as much sleep as he's expecting to. In all honesty, though, we're excited to have Orchard and Grove and the Nomad set of solutions as part of the Jamf family. We really saw this as an amazing opportunity to strengthen our core products and also do right by the thousands of customers that exist today. From the beginning, we made the decision to extend support for this product, and we also, as you may have heard, chose to offer free chat support for the open source solution still known as Nomad. This is and always has been internally staffed by our Jamf-trained professionals across the globe, and they're available to you in your time zone whenever you need them. This also led us to a larger discussion, and we understand that it's rare that you're only using Jamf Now, Jamf Pro, or Jamf Connect. There's a ton of tools out there that you guys use every single day, many of which are created by all of you in the open source community. As you may recall, at JNUC 2017, we were excited to announce the Jamf Marketplace. This was an opportunity for us to bring together all of those integrations and apps and open source tools and really allow us to live by the philosophy of Jamf and. Today, this is led by Charles Edge, and we have over 200 providers in Jamf Marketplace. This has really bridged the gap between Jamf and the greater ecosystem of Apple management. To help continue drive the success of the open source community, we're happy to announce that in addition to Nomad, we will also be providing free chat support for all of the marketplace integrations. This will give everybody in the Jamf Nation community access to industry-leading support that we know will help you keep all those open source tools that are important for the schools and businesses that you guys run every single day. We also have the question of what about people who want a higher level of support for just specifically Nomad? We're also going to be offering enterprise support plans specifically for that tool set, and you guys can contact us if you're interested in those. The best part about all of this is that Joel will be able to actually focus his time on product development for Nomad and Jamf Connect, and right now he's going to walk you through what we can expect to see around authentication.
Cool. Thank you very much, Rachel. The build.
Oh, yeah, the build.
So this is Carrie the Caribou, who now makes even more sense being up here in Minnesota. I'm growing out my Minnesota beard. It's all good. We're excited about this. So Carrie will still stay on Nomad and Nomad Login. Those are still staying open source. Nothing there changes. We very much will continue to support, update, and do other things with those products. So very excited about that. Everything that was commercial, like Rachel talked about, now becomes part of Jamf Connect. We're very excited with Jamf Connect. We can make the suite a little more integrated and really focus on all kinds of authentication across the board as we move into some SAML, OpenID Connect, and other operations that we'd like to do with that. If you're a user of our products today, right now we work with Okta. Okta's got a great authentication API, allows us to do just-in-time user provisioning at the login window, password synchronization, and a lot of those cool things. So that's the bulk of what Jamf Connect is today. However, we know that a lot of you have been asking about other things, particularly perhaps Azure Active Directory. So what we're going to show off today, and we've got an edge case user that's even going to go through the demonstration so you can really see how it's like in front of a real user. We're going to show you Azure Active Directory login and then some other cool stuff that I don't think we've ever shown before. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the demo machine, and we're in a 10.9 instance. And if I go to computers and I scroll down here to pre-stage enrollments and click on this pre-stage that we already have set up, you'll notice with the in-app guide here that we have something brand new. So this is an enrollment package, or what you may know this as is a weight configuration. Dean already let this out of the bag a little bit earlier, but this is really cool. This allows a lot of our login window pieces to work and make some really exciting things. So step one, go to the enrollment packages. Step two, add a package. All right. You now have a package that will be deployed before the login window is shown. In our particular case, this is going to be a login window that's going to allow for Azure Active Directory authentication and then create the user just in time on the machine as we go through that. So with that, exciting. So with that, I have a new machine here, and I'm going to put my little Post-it note on it. And then I'm going to invite up some edge case users that will be able to do this demonstration and work through this. All right, don't break it.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Joel and Rachel. Oh, I jumped the gun. There we go. Okay, so one thing that Joel didn't mention, while the ability to install a package at enrollment, pre-setup assistant, is in 10.9 next week, the Jamf Connect software for Azure Active Directory is in product preview, so it is not released as of next week, but I'm not even going to project in the future when that's going to be because I get myself in trouble when I do that. However, it is far enough along that we are going to enter into the running with scissors section of the demonstration, where we are going to provision this machine live. And I've mentioned that we've been helped by friends over the years, and last year we introduced you to a new friend that surprised you a little bit. Brad Anderson from Microsoft was here, and we announced a product that we were working together on called Conditional Access, Microsoft Conditional Access for the Mac. So there is no one I would rather provision this Mac for than the Corporate Vice President of Enterprise Mobility and Management from Microsoft, back with us again this year, Brad Anderson.
Dean, how you doing?
Yeah, how you doing? Brad, while we're setting up, while I'm setting up, why don't you just remind everybody of your responsibilities at Microsoft?
Yeah, so I build all the management technology at Microsoft that manages and provisions Windows, iOS, Android, and Macs. And then I'm the one who's also responsible for the enterprise experience about what the end user is, and more importantly, what we help you to deliver to them and what your experience is as well. So I drive the enterprise experiences and then all the management technologies.
Awesome. And then just as a reminder of what we announced last year when we got together, you had reached out to us and knew that we had a whole lot of information stored on the Mac, and we were able to essentially gather that information and hand it off to you for something called Microsoft Conditional Access for the Mac. Do you want to just describe that for a little bit? And let's go ahead and bring the contents of this Mac up on the screen. You'll see I'm just going through the normal startup, and I'm going to start click through. Brad, while you just share with everybody what Microsoft Conditional Access for the Mac is all about.
So conditional access allows you to define the requirements that you have that defines for your organization what a trusted user is, what a trusted device is, and what a trusted app is. And then at the time when access is requested to company data, we can do a real-time determination if it meets your criteria. Is this a trusted user using a trusted device with a trusted app? And what Jamf provides is just a rich set of capabilities in terms of the understanding they have of the Mac devices. So they feed us an inventory, a configuration set of data. Then we utilize that to increase our knowledge and therefore increase our ability to understand if it's a trusted device or not.
Right. And not only do we essentially block access to those enterprise resources if it's not a trusted device, we were able to put into the product deep links back into Jamf self-service to actually help the user mitigate the problems that they might have. So rather, help the user get their device back into compliance as opposed to just saying, no, you can't access the resources. Now, this couldn't have timed out better. You notice something here. Normally, this Mac would power up to the ability to set up an account, correct? Well, it did. It just looks a little bit different. It powered up straight to the Azure AD credentials because of the feature that we have entered into 10.9 and because of Jamf Connect for Azure. So why don't we start with going ahead and entering your credentials. And you'll notice that Brad has got a user ID that we already provided him. He's just providing his Azure AD credentials just as he would sign on with Azure anytime. In this particular case, let's go ahead and bring up the contents of the iPhone that's sitting there. And he's going to bring up the Microsoft Authenticator. And you'll notice this is something called passwordless login. He just needs to match the numbers from his Mac to his iPhone, and then of course Face Connect. We snuck into his room last night, got his Face ID. We can take the iPhone off the screen now to get more of a screen with Mac. And then he just entered in the passcode that he wants to use to set up his Mac account. So this Mac account is now going to be set up with a nice clean name, which is going to be the user ID for Azure AD, and then the password that he entered. And of course, now we're at the moment of truth. Vice President for Microsoft deciding whether to go to the light on the Mac or if it's the dark side.
That's good.
Your choice.
This is one of those things we should definitely walk to the light. Go to the light, Dean.
Okay. What? Continue
Oh,
there.
there you go.
There we go. There we go. It's all right.
I have to tell you, when
It's all right. I use one every day.
when we were walking through this last night, I was trying to touch it.
Oh! It's all right. So what just happened? We got all the way up to the Finder where we have the powered Mac on, and we did it entirely with our Azure credentials. Before we take the next step and look at the actual account was created, talk just a little bit about what you have to protect first and foremost is your identity. And of course, you have a special set of capabilities with Microsoft 365. Talk about the importance of protection of that identity.
It seems like every week we read about a new organization that has been breached and all their identities have been stolen. I mean, literally, it seems like it's every week. When we take a look at the attacks that are having, we sit in this very unique place. You think about it for a minute. When I was here a year ago, we talked about the fact that we had 80 million monthly active users of Office 365. Today, it's 130 million. Every one of those requires access and authentication. We actually service more than 15 billion authentications a day through our authentication processes. Interesting data point about that, in any given month, we see more than 6 billion attacks that are happening by attackers trying to compromise identities, corporate identities. And so we get a chance to see all the attacks that are happening, and then using that data and applying all the artificial intelligence that we have, we can actually now come to a point of view for every single identity in the enterprise and a risk level associated with it. And what that then allows us to do is, a part of this conditional access, in addition to having a point of view on the device, we now have a point of view on the risk level of the identity. And so, when you think about when somebody's asking for access, it's a combination of their identity and their device that they're asking for requests from. And so we can bring that together and give you a much better holistic view of, should that user device combination be allowed to access, or do we need to guide them to take some steps to get compliant?
Right. And over the last year, we've been working together with the customer response to Microsoft Conditional Access for the Mac has been so special in terms of wanting to embrace it. We've been working with companies like Accenture and True Manufacturing and Mutual of Omaha and Nestle and Juniper to take that next step with the Mac and provide the same level of security that you find on the Windows devices, iOS, and the Android devices through using Microsoft Conditional Access.
Dean and I were talking last night. I've had a chance to literally talk to hundreds of customers about this. And it's just been one of those great opportunities where, we'll be talking, I'll say, now, do you know about the Jamf partnership? And it's like, what did you say? And then we'll walk through the level of integration, and it's beautiful, it's simple, and it's meaningful.
Right. Now, I'm dying to take a look at the account that got created here. I'm just going to bring it up and go into users and groups. And you will see here that Brad was created as a standard user, not an admin, and he is locked. So if we were to go in, and for Brad, say, want to make a network change, he is going to appropriately, but once again, prompted for his Azure AD credentials. But he's not an admin. He shouldn't be able to make these changes. Once again, we're going to use the passwordless login where he'll be getting a code. Let's bring the phone back online here. Once again, need to match that with the two-factor ability to do the Face ID. However, we've got an error. That's supposed to happen, folks. It's supposed to error out because he doesn't have access. But fortunately, I do because I'm in IT. I'm an admin. So move.
I see how this is.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and log in as an admin. Now, I set up my sign-on with, I wanted to be able to have a password. Now, I know some of you out there, truthfully, have some bad habits around password protection for admins, and there's too many people that know what that password is, which is why I have two factors set up on my watch. You can't see this, but if I tap approve there, should be, if everything's smoking, we're going to be logged on automatically, and you will see we are unlocked right down here.
And that was the same Microsoft Authenticator app on the iWatch, or the Apple Watch that was working.
We had Microsoft Authenticator both on the iPhone and also on the watch. Worked extraordinarily slick, and I think you can build some use cases to just, again, protect the identity, protect the device. We've been working together for 2 years now. I know the answer to this question because we've talked about it. But for the audience sitting here that is just committed to Apple, how important is Apple? How important is the Mac to Microsoft?
Yeah, as we think about the modern workplace and our offering for that is what we call Microsoft 365. And it's all about how you empower users to be productive and to create and to achieve on the device of their choice. And so look at the work that we've done here, with Apple, with Jamf to enable that. So first of all, you've got great Office that runs on the Mac. It's a fantastic solution. Mm-hmm. With the integration work that we've done, you can now do conditional access for your devices, for your identities. As a part of Microsoft 365, you have the rise to be able to remote down Windows apps down to your Mac device if you need to. It's one comprehensive hero solution that truly does enable users to be productive on any device and on their device of choice. So that's why it's so important to us.
Fantastic. Brad, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you've been a great sport.
Thank you.
You can bring down that. Let's face it, in the enterprise these days, most users are using, Microsoft and they're using Apple, either or both. And you'll notice that this entire conversation between Brad and I, it isn't, Windows has obviously a ton of users out there, but we weren't talking about that. We were talking about the broader Microsoft ecosystem. And even as we've been talking about Apple today, yeah, we've been talking about devices, but we've been showcasing the broader ecosystem of Apple Business Manager, Apple School Manager, automated MDM enrollment, those types of things. So there's two great ecosystems right now that exist in the enterprise. And if there is a way of thinking about what Jamf is really trying to do, we are right now focused heavily on providing an awesome Apple experience within that Microsoft enterprise, because Microsoft 365 and Office 365 are becoming such standards within the enterprise. And more, we have customers coming to us just saying, make everything Apple work great within that enterprise. And last year at JNUC, when I was walking in the hallways, I had several of you come up to me and say, hey, Dean, I'm almost there. I'm using you for Mac, but I'd like to use you for everything Apple within the enterprise, but you got to do this, this, and this. And we listened to you, and we worked hard over the last year, but there was one customer in particular who pushed us harder than anybody in this area so that we could help them with their entire Apple ecosystem. And tell the story of that one customer, and to talk about how Jamf is taking listening to our customers to the next level, please welcome to the stage Andrina Kelly.
Thank you. Good morning, Jamf Nation. Throughout the keynote this morning, you've seen some great new features in Jamf Pro. But to go along with that, you've probably noticed a new way that we're highlighting these features to you. In Jamf Pro 10.9, we're introducing Engage. Engage is a new way for us to communicate with you, but also for you, the Jamf Nation community, to engage with us. You've already seen it in action today in those pre-stage enrollment packages for macOS, the privacy preferences, policy control, configuration profiles, iOS reporting, and of course on that new inventory preload. As we release software more frequently, we want to hear that feedback from you. And you'll have the ability to give us that feedback directly within Jamf Pro. Our guiding principle is not to interrupt your interaction with Jamf Pro, but to guide you in the least intrusive manner wherever you ask for it. If you don't believe me, we even provide you the ability to disable Engage. Let me show you how easy that is. So here we are in our Jamf Pro interface here. Going up into the settings, and exactly where you'd expect it, you're going to find a new icon in system settings called Engage. Right here in Engage is where you can disable it. And of course, when you do go to disable it, we want to hear that feedback. We want to know how that we can improve for you in the future. So of course, while we're looking for your feedback here, you might be curious, well, cool, but what do you actually do with that feedback? And we've been working with several of you over the past year, and a lot of your feedback is what has actually led to the new iOS self-service. Things like improved accessibility using VoiceOver, additional localizations, a new responsive design, improved searching within iOS self-service, the new look and feel of iOS self-service have all come from customer feedback. When talking with one of our customers in particular, it became apparent that they were thinking about the end user experience as much as we were. And last year, you heard the story of how SAP were empowering their end users with their Mac at SAP project. Since then, SAP is expanding their focus even further into the Apple ecosystem. And this year, they're able to not only talk to us about how they're using Jamf to manage macOS and tvOS, but in the past year, they started using Jamf to manage iOS also. To discuss the benefits that SAP are seeing from moving to Jamf, please join me in welcoming Martin Lang, VP IT Services of Enterprise Mobility at SAP. Hi, Martin. So, Martin, thank you so much for joining us again at SAP. At JNUC.
JNUC.
For those who weren't here last year, I wonder if you could just give us a brief overview of who your team is and what do they do at SAP?
Of course. So we are Enterprise Mobility Services. That's what we call our team. We are part of SAP IT's organization, and our mission, and I would say our passion, is to enable all of our SAP employees, there's like 95,000 of them all over the world, to be more productive anywhere, delivering fun and easy to use and innovative mobile technology. This journey started a couple years ago when we started to build our first iOS apps connecting to SAP systems, productivity apps, but also apps for salespeople connecting to SAP systems and so forth, and a clear focus to help employees be more productive when they're on the road. the enterprise mobility team expanded because these apps were very popular, and so it expanded in scope, and we took on the responsibility for mobile device management at SAP, and shortly after we've also been asked to take on the responsibility to manage Macs at SAP in the same manner as part of enterprise mobility overall. I've been privileged to hire some very passionate Mac admins, some of whom you may even know. We are proud at SAP and as Enterprise Mobility to offer employees a choice for both desktop and mobile devices, and we currently manage around 18,000 Macs, some 65,000 iPhones, 17,000 iPads, and about 170 Apple TVs in conference rooms and executive briefing centers and meeting rooms all over the world. Apple currently, when it comes to iPhones or to mobile phones, currently makes up about 93% versus 7% Android. We do offer Android phones as well, but that's what people choose. On the Apple side, we expanded from, on the application side, we expanded from initially just building iOS apps to now also build a bunch of native Mac OS apps, as well as 5 tvOS apps that we have running on our Apple TVs. Our team has their hands full.
That's a really impressive adoption rate. I was wondering if you could give us an overview of what you've been up to since we saw you last year then.
Well, we've been kind of busy. So one of our biggest projects has been the strategic decision to move to a new MDM provider for our mobile devices. We did proof of concepts with multiple UEM providers, as well as with Jamf, and decided at the end that we moved to Jamf primarily for 2 reasons. For one, we've been a very happy Jamf customer for 8 years, managing our Macs with Jamf since 2010. And the Jamf expertise that we already had in-house managing those Macs helped us to scale up faster, now looking at iOS. Also, the focus of Jamf on reducing and removing the step 3 is something that spoke to us, because that's what we are about as SAP IT as well, to remove that step 3 for our end users and make IT as simple as breathing. That's actually a quote from our CIO. He used to say that all the time. Now, to provide an even better service for our employees, we made some organizational changes as well with this. We decided to move everybody focused on Apple devices together into one team so that we can support Macs and iPads and iPhones and Apple TVs with a consistent user experience across the board. We have a similar approach for Android as well, and this platform focus helps us to bring out the passion that people have for one or the other platform, and to always use the MDM and connected features around the MDM to the fullest to enable people's productivity on the devices of their choice.
So Martin, that's really interesting. Would you be able to tell us more about how Apple at SAP really benefits your end users?
Yes, I could tell you a lot more about it, but I thought I'd rather show you. And actually, I'm not going to show you. I brought a new hire with me. Her name is Giulia Morasutti. She just started at SAP in October. Giulia, welcome. You get a hug too. Yeah. And Giulia has been a design intern at SAP, and she is eligible in a role to have a corporate phone, but we didn't give it to her. We're gonna give it to her now, live here on stage. Of course, it has a post-it on it, right, as you would expect. This is ours, though, not Jamf's. It says IT Services, which is what this shirt says. And Giulia, let's enroll this phone, shall we? So Giulia is actually, this is not quite a demo, she's actually enrolling this iPhone brand out of the box into our production environment, our production Jamf Pro environment that we now have in place. And if the demo gods are with us, this hopefully works. I may need to crack this Steve Jobs joke that you need to switch off your Wi-Fi's for this to work. This might really help us, but let's see. So you know how this works. We'll get the phone on the screen. Giulia's going to just start the enrollment of this phone.
Well, Martin, this is more than just a demo as well. Like, this is your actual real phone.
This is a real phone. And actually, Giulia, well, she kind of knows it, but she's going to be able to keep this phone. This is really her phone. After this, it's a 10S. We don't give 10Ss to everybody who starts at SAP, but we thought for this, if you live enroll it on stage, we might as well. So you see Julia proceeding here to activate this phone. She picked a guest Wi-Fi because we actually brought a small office environment with us here today. And this phone is starting to receive the automated MDM enrollment configuration. In a minute here, or in a second hopefully, Julia will enter her SAP email address and password right now, and we're going to take the phone off the screen because
it's a real phone.
Because, like I said, this is not a demo. It's going to be her real password, but the screen comes back in a second.
It's hard to type when there's 2,000 Jamf Nation watching you.
Right. There you go. And we'll go to the...
Oh. If we can flip back again. Can we take it off the screen?
Oh, yeah. It was just her name. Yeah. Just her name.
Okay, we can flip back again.
There you go. Let's go to the next screen. One forward.
Excuse me.
One more. There you go. So what's actually happening now is interesting. You see this awaiting final configuration from SAP. You may not have seen the screen before. This is a brand new feature in 10.8. Dave mentioned it earlier in the keynote today. We can actually now install all configuration profiles and wallpapers that are scoped for this phone right here in the setup assistant. I find this super cool. We love this feature at SAP because it helps us to make this phone be more usable right away before Julia gets access to the phone. However, the Wi-Fi is really now the thing, so we may need to. I may need to just chat with you a little bit while this is happening. When Julia does get access to the phone, multiple certificates, including a user certificate, plus all security and password policies to ensure device compliance are already on this phone, as well as an Apple-branded wallpaper. And there you go. This was quite fast. 10.8 was released just this morning, by the way, so I'm not kidding with this. This is all live. We now need to wait for a few apps that come down. We actually at SAP are, Julia's, you can try to steal her passcode. She's going to change that, obviously, right? But so there's the apps coming down. At SAP we are very careful in how many apps we install at the time of enrollment because we do not want to clutter the device, right, for our users, but we want to make it usable right from the start and guide users into the next steps. So besides self-service, which you saw obviously showing up, we also push Microsoft Authenticator, and we use it for certificate-based logon to all Office 365 app. We'll see that in a second. We also push 2 in-house apps at the time of enrollment, which we call Apple at SAP and Launchpad. And they're still loading. Here, you saw that obviously this phone is supervised, right, because we used automated MDM enrollment, so there's no pop-ups for any app installs. In our prior solution, we had a lot of pop-ups, and so we are very glad that we could get rid of this. Everything uses VPP. We use everything Apple and Jamf and Microsoft offers very consistently to improve the user experience. So maybe a few more of you need to switch off your Wi-Fis.
Can you tell me more about why it was so important for you to think about getting rid of those password prompts by leveraging things like the automated application enrollment?
Well, it's really, ideally, we want to give anybody a phone, and they should be able to enroll it with no effort, right? We do not want to have IT people in the loop with this. In fact, I gave a phone just like the one Julia used to our CTO, Björn Gerke, just the other week after the 10S came out. I gave it to him on a Saturday at 11, and at 2 o'clock he called me and was all enrolled. And he did it all without any instructions, right? Which is for our executives. I mean, he's the CTO, but it's still actually, I'm not used to this. It's so easy. There's still a few apps loading, but I think we can start to click on Apple at SAP. And see what's happening there. So Apple at SAP was actually built on the Jamf certificate SDK, which was released in 10.6, prioritized a little bit, but released in 10.6. And the purpose of the certificate SDK is to provide single sign-on certificates for in-house apps, because in-house apps cannot see the regular certificate in the keychain. What happened now, super quick, you saw Julia did not have to enter any passwords, and you see connected is it pulled in the certificate, and it's now available on the device. Julia can now, the Apple at SAP app, also is the entry point after the certificate is there to the Apple at SAP community. So Julia clicks on the community and we see this is single sign-on now, so there's no logon screens for any website now, any SAP website, internal or external. And this is our iPhone and iPad at SAP community where people can see news on devices and OSs and apps and so forth. All right, let's check the Fiori Launchpad, Julia. This was the last app that was loading. The Fiori Launchpad, some of you, if you are an SAP customer, may notice this is kind of our default way at SAP to connect to SAP business processes and systems anymore. There's really no SAP GUI anymore. This is it. This works on mobile devices as well as on desktops, and it's single sign-on and VPN-less because we often did not have to start a VPN here, right? It's loaded. Julia's configured Launchpad, perfect. Let's do OneDrive, Julia. So this is the first time Julia is opening OneDrive on this device, right? So she will have to enter her email address. We saw the screen before on the Mac, obviously, right? This is a regular Azure AD login. However, ours is actually even cooler than yours, Steen, because ours uses certificates, right, for logon. So Julia, because we have no certificates on the device knows who Julia is. We will click sign in with certificate. And in just a second, Julia will see all her files and folders coming in for OneDrive. There you go. Just a slight waiting time, but it will, I promise you, it looks very good. There you go, one more push notification pop-up. There's all her files. Perfect, right? Let's do Outlook next. And this is super cool, right? Because Outlook is maybe the golden, I don't know, the holy grail of managing devices. But so in Outlook now, it also takes the Azure Active Directory, the Azure AD authentication, and Julia did it in OneDrive already, so Outlook's already authenticated, and there is virtually no email, no pop-up. Yeah, few emails. We've just started to make Outlook available for SAP employees on Exchange Online. So this is actually, I find this just super cool. Let's take a final look at self-service before we hand it back to you, Andrina, and let's go to the featured category. So what you see here is you see that besides the apps that we've been looking at, our enterprise mobility team does a lot of other native apps. All those are native apps, and you see they follow a certain color scheme, and this is part of the Apple at SAP experience, this consistent user experience that I mentioned. Our users can see these apps and know they all work with single sign-on, none of them need VPN, they are all seamless. The colors of those apps are actually reflected in the Apple at SAP icon in the corners. You saw that, and also in the home screen. So this is what I mean when I say we have this consistent Apple at SAP experience that users love a lot. This phone is fully set up, Julia, and this is yours to keep, obviously. Awesome job in enrolling this phone. We'll give you another applause here. Yeah. And stay with us, though, for a second.
All right, so now that the phone is fully set up, we can swap on back to our fantastic Apple at SAP logo here. So, Martin, I understand that one of the benefits of when you created the Apple Center of Excellence at SAP, you took both your IT administrators and your iOS developers and brought them together so that they could leverage technology in some pretty creative ways. So I understand that you've brought us an example of that to show us.
Yes, we did. And I think it's a super cool example. I think you guys will gonna love it too. So if we go to Julia's phone right now, you'll see an app that is actually an augmented reality-enabled gamified app store. That's quite a mouthful. That's like your privacy, whatever, policy.
That's as far as most people get, yeah.
Anyway, so I find quite exciting how this is actually going to be a game, but this connects to iOS self-service, and we'll see this in a second. We call this game AppShot. It's based on the augmented reality demo that you have seen from Apple at WWDC, and Apple put this out on GitHub, so we could we could take the code and add to it, right? You see, we put our app icons in 3D, added them to the game. You can shoot down these app icons, and as you shoot them down, the phone checks if you have those apps installed or not. And when Julia shot down all apps, it'll give her a summary of the apps that she does not have yet installed. And you can say, install all apps, and this is where this is just so cool. It opens iOS self-service, and it says app installation is in progress. And if Julia goes back to the home screen for just a second, you'll see that there's actually apps installing on her phone right now. So this is a new feature that Jamf gave to us as a beta tester, kind of. It's not available to all of us yet, but it'll come in a future version of iOS self-service, and I'm quite thrilled about it. It's quite cool.
Martin, that is really cool. You've shown us really how you've enabled the best user experience at SAP by really creating that Apple Center of Excellence and bringing everything together. I'd really like to thank you for coming and joining us today, updating us on what you've been up to, and I'm really excited to see what comes next. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Martin.
Yeah,
okay.
all the best.
Oh, Dean, yes. And now I'd like to bring Dean. Sorry.
All right, there's so much to talk about in that session. Too many things. Starting with Julia, you are a rock star. Probably the youngest person we've ever had on the JNUC stage, and to not only handle that whole enrollment, to go 4 for 4 on the old slingshot thing, it's quite impressive. Thank you so much to SAP. One team combined with app development through device management for every Apple, a team that is skilled at Apple, that has the right tools, and is passionate about it, can accomplish so much. So what we've seen today, Jamf, Apple, IBM, Microsoft, SAP, all contributing to this community of 70,000 Jamf or Jamf Nation members. We're so appreciative for all of you, but I do want to follow tradition and recognize 5 people really quick. These are the 5 people out of the 70,000 in the Jamf Nation membership community that we refer to as the honor roll. These are the people who are getting the most feature requests into the code, that are contributing the most to discussions, that are organizing the most user meetings out there, that are participating in the beta progress. I'm going to go through them quickly, and I just want us to kind of slowly rise to a thunderous ovation for Don and Emily and Steve and Balms and John, all 5 of our Jamf Nation honor roll. Thank you very much. Lots of return honorees there. There is another group of customers that I'd like to recognize as well. We refer to them as our RC candidate customers. What that means is every time we come out with a release, like version 10.8 that we did today, you know, you all know that the betas are available, but there's a time that we cut a release candidate, the release that we're going to make generally available, and these customers actually put it into their production environment and run for a while before we release it all to you. It's risk, definitely, and they've definitely caught things over the years, but that is essentially a service to the community that we should all appreciate. I'd like to recognize all of our RC candidate customers as well. Thank you. These people are definitely giving more than they're receiving. And on that note, I'd like to just close today talking a little bit about something that's important to us called Jamf Nation Global Foundation. We chat about it a little bit every year, and sometimes I get questions as to why, and I'm just going to make it really simple because it can sound somewhat self-promotional, and that's not the intent. Here in America, if you are running a business, it is hard to not consider ourselves privileged. And I believe that every American business should be out there trying to do what they can in the community. That has been a long-held Jamf belief. Jamf employees are encouraged to volunteer and to donate to organizations. And over the years, to date, Jamf Nation Global Foundation employees have donated and volunteered over 14,000 hours of service. They have donated and directed the donations of over $1 million to over 440 in-need organizations around the world. And I'm so thankful for that, and it has had such an impact on the community. And Jamfs are encouraged to donate their time and to give wherever their hearts lead them. I'm not here to say where anybody should be giving back. I'm only suggesting that we should all be giving back. And they're able to do this wherever their hearts lead them. But more and more, one of the things that we notice is that the hearts of Jamf are leading them towards children, specifically education, and that could be because of the involvement we have with so many schools that are in the room. But not only that, but education for young people in technology, which is a rarity still, and even more so to address some of the economic disparity that exists out there and the gender and ethnic diversity issues that exist in technology jobs. And I'm definitely not here to preach on that. Jamf's demographics match what you see in the technology industry, which means we all need to do something about this. In the name of fairness, we need to do something about this, and it starts with reaching the young. And with that, we have something very special that we've been working on that I want to tell you about, and you're all going to have an opportunity to see it. Last year when I was here, I told you a story about how we had recently, just 2 months earlier, a team of us had gone down to Titanier, Haiti, and we had served in a school, and we had implemented technology, iPads, down for this. It was an orphanage and a school in Titanier, Haiti, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And it was such a tremendous success, and it was so heartwarming that it was just weeks, about a month after JNUC last year, that we returned because we wanted to raise our game. And we returned to Titanier and a school called Grace Academy with an hour of code curriculum. These kids coding in Swift, manipulating robotic sphero balls around the ground, that we would tape the course for them out on the ground. The way that they took to this, when we first presented to the administrators what we were going to do, they thought we were absolutely crazy. But we were told after the fact that it was one of the most uplifting experiences these kids had ever had, because when we asked why, they said it gave them hope. It actually showed them a path out, not just out of, not out of Haiti, out of poverty, and not just for them, but it showed them a path for their country, because these skills are outsourceable. They have a global capacity in being employed. And that was just a great experience, but we decided to up our game again. And while we were there, it was last December, they took us to another school. This school was called Hope School. And they said, can you repeat what you did at Grace? But Hope School was in the city called Cité Soleil. And it's the poorest city in all of Haiti. And not only hadn't these kids, like the Titanier kids, not only these kids hadn't ever seen technology in their lives. There was no electricity there. These kids had never seen a light bulb. Talk about implementation challenges. Not just electricity at the school, electricity in the entire region of the town. And so when we were down there, we met two organizations, one called Modular Life Solutions and the other called Matter. Matter is a nonprofit organization right here in Minneapolis. And we thought, this school can't possibly handle us shipping technology down here because there's simply no electrical capability. So if the classroom can't handle the technology, we had a thought, why not ship the classroom? And that is where the Matter Innovation Hub was born. The Matter Innovation Hub is a state-of-the-art classroom that is designed out of an ordinary shipping container, obviously making it very simple to ship. What you're seeing on the screen is an ordinary class that was being offered once we prepared this thing. It is decked out with Apple technology, loaded with learning curriculum. It has renewable solar energy with solar panels across the top, which means it can go anywhere across the world or anywhere across town. As we were constructing this, an organization in Minneapolis called Urban Ventures, whose mission it is to end urban poverty, said, hey, there's more people right here in the US that need access to this kind of state-of-the-art learning technology. Could we use one of these urban or innovation hubs right here in Minneapolis? And that is the footage that you're seeing on the screen here. We put that into production just a couple of months ago, and we've been running tech programs out of it ever since. And I'm telling you, one of the things that Urban Ventures wanted to do was reach kids in the community. And when kids are walking by and they see other kids standing out of a shipping container holding an iPad, flying drones, you know what that does? That attracts them. Everybody says, I want to go in that thing. And they've been drawing these kids in. And not only have we been drawing these kids into Minneapolis, that we did indeed. Yes, that was a classic look of Salty the teacher. Dave Saltmarsh is his name. He was just exhausted after a day of teaching, which is exactly what happens in this incredible contraption. We did finish it. For those of you that are in Minneapolis, it is sitting right out in front of the Hyatt Hotel. You can take a tour and you can learn all about the Matter Innovation Hub. I'm telling you, even for you schools out there, it is a spectacular Apple school using shared iPads so we can maximize the number of kids that we can reach and teach. For those of you that are not in Minneapolis, just go out to matter.ngo and click on education under what we do. And yes, we did end up shipping the Matter Innovation Hub to Haiti as well. It arrived on location last week. We sent a team down there, and within 3 days, set it up and invited the kids in and actually offered classes, which is what you're seeing here. And as you look at these pictures, you might see the nice uniforms, and that's because it's a spectacular school that provides these uniforms. But these kids all woke up last week in the morning in a shanty hut, more than likely sleeping on a dirt bed, to come to school when they had never seen electricity before. And they walked in a shipping container and had a classroom as good as any in the United States. When I imagine what these kids are going to be doing in 12 years, the sky's the limit. And I just couldn't be more proud. Please check out the Matter Innovation Hub that is right outside. I started by sharing that our mission is to focus on Apple because Apple focuses on the person. It's not about tech in the classroom. It's not even about tech at work. It's about people going out and being able to do the awesome things that they were meant to do. And that's really my hope for you at JNUC this week, that you'll chat with people, that you'll learn things, and that you will imagine awesome. I hope you do. Thanks and have a great JNUC.